right, next up we have Andrei Boghiu. Some say Prezi is here to enhance the way presentations are delivered, that this new visual experience takes your presentation and gives it a twist. Andrei has a background in computer science and specializes in product and user experience. He has already founded 2 companies and has been involved in others as software developer, project and product manager, as well as team leader. He's currently product manager at Prezi, a Hungarian startup with more than 20 million users. His role is to improve specific areas of the product and assess opportunities for growth. Andrei will discuss a topic close to heart. Are ideas the be-all and end-all? How important is execution? What about failures? He will draw conclusions from his own startup adventures, hoping to convince you to take the leap of faith too. Andrei, the podium is all yours.
Hey. So yeah, I'm going to talk today about, I'm not going to give advice, we just found out that it's not good, so I'm going to talk today about my experiences and what I learned through those experiences. I'm not saying this is what you should do, I'm giving examples of things that happened to me and what I learned from them. So yeah, as I was introduced, sorry, it's a new product, Prezi. Anyway, so yeah, so far I've founded 2 companies, and now I work as a product manager in Prezi. Step 1 was actually Cyprot, which was a company founded in 2005 in Romania. I was actually in high school when I started this company, and it was a pretty interesting experience, but this might give you an indication of what's to come next. So unfortunately for me, the company failed in 2008 when the crisis came and competition, continued selling, but people would be more careful where they put their money. So they would choose the best product and not try them all and then make a choice. So basically sales went down in 2008, and I had to find a job. But because of this failure, actually, it landed me a job at a multinational company called Komodo, where I worked as a developer, and it taught me the importance of execution, of doing the product right. The company I started was called Whiteopia. This was kind of a whiteboard software where people could go and collaborate in real time. They could add things to that whiteboard, and everyone would see what the others saw. And yeah, unfortunately, it also failed, mostly because I was too slow to go to market. But this failure actually landed me the next job, which was Prezi, because the product was very similar in terms of the whole vision with what Prezi was actually doing and what they were aiming for. So I became a product manager at Prezi, where our grand purpose is to improve humanity by improving sharing, and it kind of makes sense. So the question is, are ideas enough for success? So are ideas the most important part of actually having a success? And the answer, of course, is no. There are more important things like execution, for example. And to give you some examples about this, there are these classic examples about how Facebook came and just obliterated companies like MySpace, High5, which I don't know if you guys know, but they were doing basically the same thing as Facebook did, just they weren't doing it as good as Facebook did it. And another classical example is, of course, the iPhone, which is not the first smartphone, but is the first good smartphone, and the iPod, which is not the first iPod, but it's actually the first good iPad. So execution matters a lot in terms of building a successful product. And so everything starts with an idea. Basically, when you build a product, you start with a hypothesis. You have this hypothesis that people have a need, or you could do something that would be cool and would help people achieve something. And basically, this is how I see the blueprints of a product are. This is how I see like the main steps of building a product. You start up with this idea, then you try it, you validate it, you end up building it, and then you might succeed. Or you might fail and go back to the idea point. So what's the goal? What's the goal of building a product? So the goal is to build a minimum viable product. And you hear this a lot in product managers conferences and startup conferences. And basically this is about getting the most out of the least effort. So how can you get the most data, the most information by putting in the least effort? So the minimum part, and I really love this quote, even though Andy already revealed it for me earlier. So I really love this quote because it basically says that if you're taking too long to build stuff, you're going to fail. You have to release the minimum stuff. You have to release the minimum building block that could prove your hypothesis. And the next part is, of course, viable. And I have another good quote that I like from Marty Kagan. If you don't provide value, I really don't care about how usable the product is, because at the end of the day, value is what makes it or breaks it, not how easy it is to use it or the design. And the third part is product, of course. You need to focus on the misery, not on technology. We're not here to build frameworks. We're not here to improve technology. We're actually here to solve important problems for people. And this should be the goal of all startups, I think, that start, but also when you already have a startup, this should be the goal when you're thinking about building a feature. What is the minimum viable feature you can actually make to succeed, to reach a goal? And the next important part is it's to validate. And you can do this by two ways. First, you need to validate if your idea has an audience. The point being, it's really a bad idea to start building a product, working on it for 1 year, for 6 months even, for 2 months, without first validating the idea. And nowadays, it's so easy to validate the idea before putting effort into it. For example, you can, if you build a product that targets mothers in London that are 30 years old, you can easily post an ads on Facebook for a quick bucks, for a link that advertises your product, your fictional product, because you haven't built it yet, and sends them to a mock-up site and test if people actually are interested in it, if people actually click on it. It's a very, very fast way to validate your idea without putting in money and without putting in 3 months of your life and then failing or also LinkedIn ads. So Facebook and LinkedIn, I think they're very good because they allow you to target the exact people you want this product to be for. It's very important when you decide to build a product to have a clear target. And Facebook and LinkedIn, they have a lot of information about their users, so you can target specifically to the users you're interested in, thus eliminating noise. So yeah, this is a very good way to see if an idea has actually can generate interest. The other way, which is even better, is to use money as a proof of concept. So, to put money where the clicks are, basically. Using stuff like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, so these crowdfunding projects, you can easily create a mock-up for your idea in, I don't know, a week or so, and then put it on Kickstart and try to see if people would actually pay for it. And you get the benefit of also getting some money for it, but the most important thing that you find out if people would actually pay money for something like this. I think it's a great way to validate an idea before building it. So yeah, I'm going to give you some examples on how you can actually do this in real life in existing companies, because this is the kind of things that we're doing at Prezi every day. For the first example, at some point, we wondered, should we add Facebook sign up to Prezi? And this would have been like a 1-month project to do. So if people wouldn't be interested in connecting their Prezi accounts, which are more business-like, with their Facebook account, which is something a bit more personal, then we would have wasted a month of work for a lot of developers, which is not something you want to do. So what we did is actually we validated this idea in 1 day. We put a fake button on the website saying sign up with Facebook. When people clicked it, they would get a message box saying, thank you for your interest. We're working on bringing Facebook to Prezi, something like this. But the point was that we could see if people actually click on the button, if there is interest in this functionality. So we could prove the idea before spending 1 month to build it. We proved it in 1 day. And the same for another feature that was that we thought of. So the idea was, once someone creates a presentation, let's say you find a great presentation made in Prezi on the web, would you like to use it as a template? Like click a button, all the content goes away, the structure still is there, and you can then build your own presentation based on the structure of that Prezi you just found. And again, to build this, it's a pretty big project. It's 1.5 months to do it. So what we did to try to validate this idea is we actually took some already existing Prezis. We, by hand, removed the content and transformed them into templates, and we put use as a template button underneath. And then we saw if people that click that button actually use this template and actually create a presentation from it. So we basically faked the feature. Instead of having it done automatically, we did it on a small sample of presentations manually. And this, of course, allowed us to validate this idea in 2 days, and of what would otherwise be like a 1.5 or 2 month project. And the same with the next project, which is about connecting your LinkedIn account with Prezi. If we put a LinkedIn button, would people use it? If not, what would make them use it? If, for example, one idea we had is, let's say to everyone that connect your LinkedIn account and we're going to gift you a free presume. A presume is a resume made in Prezi. So basically the idea is that we make this functionality that takes information from LinkedIn and automatically builds this resume in Prezi. And of course this, again, we did some faking. We put this on the website, but instead of being automatic, we had some designers very quickly create some resumes for people just to see if this increases their engagement. What happens after we give them these presentations? Do they become more active? Are they more likely to engage with Prezi? And we did this in about 4 days with me and two designers. And by the way, for all of these projects, there were 0 development resources put into it. So the developers were working on some features while designers, UXers, and me were doing these quick tests, which didn't actually require any development. And the idea is that, so why we're doing this is because we want people to give us information. We want to know as much about our people, and linking with their Facebook account, with their LinkedIn account, give us a lot of information about users that we can then use to serve personalized content. For example, if you log in with LinkedIn on Prezi and then you're looking for presentations, we see on LinkedIn that you work in sales, for example, we automatically recommend you good sales presentations because we know this, we have this information about you. And we saw that if you give people what they expect to see, it increases their engagement. So we do all this automatically for them. So yeah, this is Validate. And I haven't said it here, but we fail a lot. So a lot of these projects failed. And I really like this quote again. I have not failed, but found 1,000 ways that do not work. So as the previous speakers mentioned, I think failure is something that, especially in Europe, we're a bit afraid of. We're a bit, adverse to taking risks. So we try to avoid risks. And this is something that I would like to emphasize. I think I learned the most so far in my life, not by winning, but by failing, by the failures I had. And I think failures are the best way we can learn. And one of the things that is most important is to fail early and fail fast. This relates to the previous example that, if a feature is to fail, it should fail in 2 days. It should fail in 1 day. You should not waste 3 months on building something that will not be used after this. Yeah, so the third part is, of course, success. And I'm going to talk now a bit about Prezi. So Prezi is, we're pretty much doing this kind of presentations that are a bit more interactive, and they allow you to show the big picture, but then zoom into details. And right now, about 75% of Fortune 500 are customers of us and use Prezi on some occasions. We have about 25 million users from all over the world. We have 150 employees from 23 countries, so it's a pretty diverse place to work. And we have 4 offices, but the main ones are Budapest, San Francisco, and we have some smaller offices in South Korea and Japan. But the most important metric from here is that we have a great culture. We have a unitary, single, great culture that helps a lot with recruiting, and it helps a lot with getting great, smart people and having them remain great, smart, involved, and doing things fast. And I'll talk more about this. So Prezi was founded, like I said, because basically the founders noticed at some point that the presentation idea hasn't actually evolved in 200 years. So from the invention of slides, they've actually been the same with different hardware for 200 years. And this is what Prezi thought, what the founder thought they could do better. Yeah, no offense to the previous speakers that used PPT, nothing against you. So yeah, Prezi allows you to create this more cinematic experience where you actually show the big picture and then you go into the details and you can actually show the details. So it's not about the transitions, the nice transitions. And one of the biggest problems we're having is changing mentality, because when you think about presentations, maybe because of PowerPoint, you're thinking about these slides, these linear presentations that go from one to the other, you know? But the human mind doesn't think this way. When you conceptualize an idea, you don't think in terms of slides, in terms of linear information on a sheet of paper. But it's more, you know, it's like a brainstorming. The information is everywhere and it's spread around. And this is what Prezi is all about. It's not about animation, but it's about showing information in a different way. And yeah, we're growing pretty fast. So this is the growth rate in terms of users compared with Evernote and SoundCloud. And you can see Prezi is growing as fast as these companies. But the most important thing, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's culture. And the quote up there is actually what Peter Alexi, which was my boss, told me on my first day of work. He actually told me, if you don't screw up in the first month, you are not working hard enough. And this kind of set the whole mood for me for since then, for how I do work daily. Because it actually emphasizes a culture where failure is not pointed out. Failure is not something that you're going to be fired for. Failure is something that, you know, should be embraced. You're going to fail, but if you don't try risk, then for sure you're not going to innovate. So as part of the culture, there are these things like, you know, no secrets. The company is very transparent. What this means is there is absolutely no secret in the company except for salaries. Everyone in the company, no matter what position they have, they know everything about all the financial data of the company, everything about the roadmap, every discussion is public, all the meetings are public. So we try to allow everyone that is interested to have access to all the information out there so they can take better decisions. Other things are, there is a no-rule policy. This means that we're trying to build a company which doesn't have any rule. And for now, this is working for us because we're still at 150 people. So I think we're still at, you know, the sweet spot where we can do this kind of stuff. Although we have worries that in the future, while growing, we won't be able to sustain. But for now, there is absolutely no rule. So there is no working hours. There is unlimited vacation. So it's basically a lot of trust put into each employee. Other things, yeah, we try to build a hack culture, and as the quote above shows, the point is that everyone has access to production, and what we try to do is push everyone, even if you're a designer, to go into the code and change stuff, to go on Optimizely and create a new test and test your idea. You don't need to get special approval for that. You don't need to write documentation for that. You should just go, do it very quickly, come up with results. If it's good, the product team is going to take it down from there. But it doesn't matter if you work in financing or if you work in sales or if you're a developer. Everyone at Prezi can, and most of the people actually do this. They go and they try to hack and put things together. And yeah, this is basically how our development looks like. So we're doing continuous integration. And we have a day one commit policy. So basically, if a developer, you're going to commit in production from day one. That's kind of assured. So we trust people a lot not to break the product. But at the same time, if they break it, it's not the end of the world. Like I said, we embrace failures. We try to learn from failures. We do not blame. We do not criticize. And yeah, usually we have about 100 commits per day and about 5 releases per day. So imagine every day there are 5 releases to the product, smaller or bigger. And also what's interesting, we have about 20, 30 experiments running on Prezi at any time. Like I said, because everyone can do these types of experiments very quickly, we have 20, 30 experiments going to different percentages at any time. And of course, what's important also, so we try to prototype to validate an idea. We do these quick prototypes, we fake stuff, it shouldn't take more than a week. Then we're building if the validation is okay, we're building the product, which usually shouldn't take more than a month. We should split it down in smaller projects, so it shouldn't take more than a month. We implement things, analyze, and the most important, then we share the findings. And this is something, so it's part of our culture that we have these meetings after all releases, they're called like evaluation, where the product teams present to all the company the results, what they learned, what were the results, so others can apply them in their daily work too. So yeah, this is Prezi. And I don't know if I can mention this or not, but we're hiring, so if you're interested. So this is what I think the process of building a great product should be. And if you are to remember something from this talk, should be this fail early, fail fast. I think it's very important, no matter if you're building a next startup, where you're working already in a company and you're building features for that product, for an existing product. I think this is one of the most helpful lessons I learned so far. Thank you.